This is PHNX. I'm Petey, along with Craig Morgan. We're at the ice stand in Scottsdale. The Coyotes just finished practicing. The big news today, Dylan Guenther just called up for the first time this season for the Arizona Coyotes. Craig, let's start off right away. What does this mean for Dylan Guenther getting called up?
Well, I mean, it's always an opportunity for a player to show that they're ready to take that next step, and that's Dylan Guenther's mindset. That's what you want to have as a player's mindset when they get this opportunity. Dylan Guenther doesn't want to go back to Tucson, but there's some realities that we'll talk about in a minute here. And when you talk to GM Bill Armstrong, even Coach Andre Tourigny, really viewing this more as a short-term opportunity while Jason Zucker is out another 2 games with a suspension. After that, they probably reevaluate. My take is that Dylan Guenther still ends up going back to Tucson, but I know he's going to try and do everything he can to prevent that.
Now, we've talked about it on the show a lot, about if he does get called up, he's a guy that's probably going to end up being in the bottom 6. What can you tell us about what line he's playing with tomorrow?
Well, you actually tweeted the lines, Petey, so you should take credit for that. But
he's getting an opportunity to play with some pretty good players right now. He's got Jack McBain and Matias, some guys that should help him offensively. And you talk about what Jack McBain brings to this team, his ability to drive the net. Dylan Guenther's a guy right now in his career that doesn't get to the blue paint. He's more of a perimeter guy with a great shot. So with McBain, his ability to get to the net and the blue paint, and then you talk about Guenther and his ability to shoot and get pucks to the net.
Melli as a playmaker, that's an interesting combination on that line.
I really like it.
Yeah.
And it gives him an opportunity to succeed. And if he is going to be here for a short period of time, you do want to see him playing with players that can help him do things that he does well. What do you think about his time on this power play? Do you think that will be an effective spot for him?
I don't know yet. You know, we thought Matias should move on to that unit, and it might work. And honestly, it didn't look that great. So we'll have to wait and see how all the chemistry plays out. But I like the idea of having another shooting threat there. So we'll see how we can take advantage of that.
Yeah, one thing I want to ask Craig, and if it is a short-term thing, and he's played extremely well down in Tucson. Mm-hmm. What does that do to a guy? You call him up, he plays 2 games. Let's say he plays pretty well. Let's say he adds some offense to the team, and then next week you go, okay, Zucker's back here, going back down.
Yeah.
Well, does that help or hurt him getting this short-term stint?
Yeah, I mean, it depends on the individual, and it's tough. Look, nobody wants to go up and down, and I think that can hurt your development if you're constantly shuttling between. But this is his first call-up. The thing with Dylan Guenther is when they sent him back to the Dub, he told me, and he was pretty open with it. We have a story up on PHNX.com about how pissed off he was, but he used it as fuel, both to drive him and to focus him. And my sense is he did the same thing in Tucson. So this is a guy who's wired the right way. He's not going to be happy about it, but I don't think he's the type of player that pouts when he gets put in this situation. He gets pissed off again, and he uses it as fuel. I suspect that's going to be the way he handles this, and I suspect that at some point, at least, the Coyotes are going to be pretty transparent with him about this process.
Yeah, and we've talked about it too, though. Like, we still believe, and I mean, me and you and I at PHNX, we think better for his development to be down there with Tucson. And right now, Tucson is playing so well, and it's a team that's you know, with the Doan, and they've been putting up good numbers. They're battling for first in the Pacific. He's going to play playoff games down there, so I still believe for his development that's a good spot for him. One of the things I noticed today is we got a chance to talk to him in the locker room. Physically, he's bigger than we talked to him this summer, so I'm curious to see if the size might be able to help him get some room out there.
Yeah, he's been able to get in the gym a little more. I mean, the AHL schedule is still challenging, but not quite like the NHL and the travel and all that. So he has beefed up a little bit. I want to go back to the development thing that you talked about. There are a lot of people that think, well, he's earned his spot up here because he, did what he did in Tucson. I don't want to take anything away from Dylan Guenther and what he's accomplished down there because he's knocked it out of the park in his short stint. But 29 games is not an evaluation that you can say, okay, yeah, we've seen enough. That's barely enough to get a statistical sense of a player. If you think 29 games is enough to earn a permanent spot in the NHL, you don't understand the evaluation or the development process. It's not. And the Coyotes will tell you that. He needs to get more time. He needs to prove it over the course of a season. Coaches talk about consistency. They want to see it over the course of a season. He hasn't done that yet. But again, he's done everything that he can so far to earn this opportunity.
Yeah, and keep in mind, the kid's 20. Hey, we're not talking about a 23, 24, 25-year-old player. He's 20. And so I know that he got sent back to junior and he was frustrated by that. And I know he's frustrated being in the American League. He's 20.
Yeah.
And I think that there are great days ahead for Dylan Guenther in the National Hockey League, but it's okay that he's sitting down in the American League for a little bit. I think physically, we talked about his maturity getting a little bigger right now. I think that's going to be imperative, and it's going to be interesting because if Dylan Guenther just comes up for 2 games, Will Zucker is out of the lineup. They're playing the Winnipeg Jets and the Boston Bruins. This is like you're getting baptism by fire. These are two big, strong, physical hockey teams. So I'm curious to see if we notice Dylan Guenther on the ice about this. Do you think that sets up good or bad that he's playing these really high quality teams?
Well, it's certainly a challenge for him. I mean, if he rises to the occasion against two elite opponents, then that gives you encouragement, right? But if he doesn't, I don't think you should say, oh my God, is this guy ever going to do it? Because that's a tough situation. And again, you mentioned he's 20 years old. A few people have said to me, well, Matias got the call up after playing part of a season and ripping it up in the AHL. Matias was a year older, and that year of development, as you know, matters a lot. Dylan Guenther's not there yet, so it's okay. Again, we've talked about this so many times, Petey, how many times they've made this mistake in the past of rushing guys. Look, if Guenther rips it up in this stint and shows, yeah, I belong here, fine. But if he doesn't, it's okay, and it's probably not going to happen. Let's be honest about it. It's probably not going to happen. He's not ready to be a star in the NHL yet.
Yeah, and we talked about him being in the ability to play in the top six. That I think that's important for him. And hey, you said it on Twitter yesterday. It was, hey, we were pretty adamant on the show that the best for his development was stay down in Tucson. And less than 2 hours later, he's getting the call up. But I do want people to pump the brakes in that a few games does not make a season. Right. I think that this gets him a chance to see where he is. Now he's played well down in Tucson, but now he gets to play against good NHL teams. Where does he fit in? Yeah. Where is his pace of play? He talked about the speed of his game and that he needed to improve his pace. Now that we get to see him and he can go, okay, I'm not quite there yet. Or I'm starting to feel more comfortable there. So I think it is a good way to set the bar for himself to see how he fits in with this league for this short stint.
Yeah.
But we'll have to see over the next 48 to 72 hours how he fits in.
And for the evaluators too, right? It's a good chance for them to say, okay, with all that he's done, how is he prepared for the NHL now? It doesn't hurt to get a look at him.
Well, it's good to have a good look at Dylan Guenther over the next 2 days. Make sure you tune into the PHNX YouTube channel for the post-game show after both the Winnipeg game and the Boston game. From the Ice Den in Scottsdale, I'm Petey, this is Craig Morgan, and this is PHNX, and we'll see you at the rink.